The Play-by-Play Student Sports Network. The best students of sports. Good evening, everybody. Today we have our playoff spectacular, or whatever you want to call this. It is an awesome playoff preview. First, we're going to hit the NBA with these three lovely gentlemen that are here with me, and then we're going to hit the NHL after that. So we are in playoff season. Two of the biggest sports in North America are happening playoffs right now. We also have a great interview coming up that Chase got to do with former NBA center, 9-year NBA veteran Jason Thompson, especially how excited we are about the Sacramento Kings this season that they're having. So let's get to it. Our first topic of the day, the primetime preview, NBA playoffs first round breakdown. So this is also not just the first round, but let's talk about the teams that have made the playoffs. Go through the matchups, how y'all think it's going to go. Obviously, every matchup are kind of like 2 games in right now. But I also wanted to say, I want you to talk about each team a little bit, maybe what player on each team needs to do well for them to go far. All that kind of stuff. All right. So let's start off in the East, because that seems to be not a foregone conclusion of the three best teams, maybe 4 best teams in the NBA. But let's start out in the East. Let's start with a team that is probably the best team in the East right now because of the injuries that are happening in Milwaukee, the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics have started off well in their thing in the East. They're facing the Hawks. They're up 2-0. Trae Young just got rated the most overrated player in the NBA. So let's quickly go through it. Let's go quickly around for give me yes or no, Chase. Celtics winning this in 4 or 5?
I mean, at this point, unless Trae Young goes off, I don't see a way the Celtics win this, I don't see a way that they win this in 6 or 7 or somehow lose a series. I mean, they're the only team in the NBA that has a top 5 scoring offense and a top 5 scoring defense. And I think while I don't have them going as far as other people, and I'll explain that later, I do think they definitely are a legitimate contender for the championship. Because look, last year's team made the finals and they're better. Tatum's more improved. Brown's more improved. They picked up Malcolm Brogdon. Derek White is better. And they still got Marcus Smart and Robert Williams as great defenders. This Boston team is a legitimate contender, and they'll make quick work of Atlanta.
All right, Matthew and Jacob, I actually forgot to introduce all 3 of you, but Matthew Heiserman, you're with us this evening. Celtics winning this in like 4 or 5 games?
Yeah, I have the Celtics in 4 games here. I think they're going to be able to easily deal with the Atlanta Hawks. Jason Tatum has come out. He is balling so far. He is right now 9th in the playoffs in points per game, which doesn't say much yet because it just started. But right now, the Atlanta Hawks do not have an answer for what the Celtics are bringing. And I did have the Celtics as my championship winners before the playoffs started, so I definitely have the Celtics winning this one in 4.
All right, sounds good. Jacob, Celtics going through quickly?
Yeah, if somebody thinks that this game goes past 6 games, if you think this series is going to game 6, you're absolutely insane. The Celtics are easily going to squeeze, or I don't know how to say this, sweep the Hawks. I think they're going to win in 4. If you think that they're going to force this to 6 games, I feel like you're absolutely insane. You have no ball knowledge. Yeah, just don't overthink it. It's Celtics in 4.
All right, sounds good. So we'll get to if you all think they need to go further later, but we are currently at the end of quarter 1 in the 3rd game between the Sixers and Nets. The Sixers took both games on the home hardwood. Joel Embiid had an amazing game 1, a great game 2, but in a different way. Chase, what about this one? This is going to be over in 4 or 5 games as well?
I think so at this point. I think Philadelphia has given themselves a foundation going up to 2-0 in the series. I mean, look, Tyrese Maxey has come to play. James Harden has come to play. Joel Embiid's come to play. That big three has really lived up to the hype. And I really think that I was high on Brooklyn going into the series. Mikal Bridges had been amazing. Spencer Dinwiddie had been a great point guard. They had been shooting efficiently from three. They had a great defender to contain Embiid in the paint with Nick Claxton, who in my opinion is the second best, maybe the best defensive center in the NBA. However, they clearly just don't have an answer. And I think that's because they don't have a number one offensive option. I think Brooklyn could steal one or maybe two of these games at home, but I think Philadelphia is just too talented. I'm going to go 5. I think Brooklyn definitely steals one. It depends on if it's just 1 or 2. I think they'll steal 1, but I still got Philly moving on.
All right, so just again, one game. Right now, the Sixers are winning 32-28 at the end of the first quarter. Jake, we'll go to you first on this one before we go to Matthew. Quickly, Sixers going in 4-5 against the Nets.
Well, at first I was going to say Sixers in 4. Then I second-guessed myself and moved it to Sixers in 7. Now I'm moving in between there, and I'm going to say Sixers in 5 and 6. I feel like the Nets I was expecting the Nets to at least win a game in Philadelphia in one of those first 2 games to make it a little bit competitive. But it just doesn't seem like the Nets are just that team right now. Maybe next year they'll have a good chance.
Play-by-play sports
Bridges
broadcast.
can build chemistry with the Nets, and so yeah.
All right,
I just feel like it's
all right. What
go
about
5.
you, Matthew Heiserman?
So in the first game, the 76ers won by 20, and in the second game, they won by 12, and I don't really see any signs of how it can possibly get worse from here. I do have another 4-game series Embiid so far, averaging 23 and 12. He's been doing great, and I just don't think watching them play, I don't see a way that the Nets are able to take a game on the 76ers with how they've been playing.
All right, sounds good. We need to speed through some of those easy series a little quicker next time. We'll get to that. So stay in the East, 1-1. Bucks Heat. Who do we have moving on? Let's go through quickly because I want to make sure we get to everything tonight, including the awesome interview we have coming up later with Jason Thompson. So let's start with Jacob with this one. Bucks tied it up, even with Giannis out, 1-1. So who do you have moving on in this series here, Jacob?
I'm going to go with the unexpected pick. The Miami Heat are moving on past the Milwaukee Bucks. That is my prediction. Because Giannis has been injured, and I think the Heat are going to take a game. So, yeah, I have the Miami Heat taking it in 7.
All right. Chase, he says Miami. What do you say?
I say Milwaukee. I mean, the thing that I was really concerned about with Milwaukee is can their depth step up with Chris Middleton hurt and Drew Holiday not really a primary offensive option, and Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis being slightly inconsistent on the offensive end, quite frankly, the defensive end as well. But without Giannis, seeing them be able to knock down all those threes, having that great team chemistry, that ball movement, I personally think that since now they've proven that they have the surrounding talent around Giannis, even if Giannis is out for one more game or 2, I think they're still able to hang around with Miami. And with Giannis, they're probably the best team in the NBA. So I do have to go with Milwaukee here. I'm going to go Milwaukee in 6. I think Miami gives them a run for their money, but not much else after that.
All right, Matthew, you're the tie-breaking vote, bud.
I'm going to have to go with Milwaukee in 7 here. Giannis is labeled as day-to-day right now. I could see that, as Chase said, being a 1 to 2 game span, maybe a little bit more. And Drew Holiday has been playing amazing. So we know that even if Giannis isn't right now playing, Drew Holiday can step up under the pressure and be their number 1 player. And I do like the Heat. I will say having Tyler Hero injured is going to affect them a lot. And that is partially why I have the Bucks winning this. But in all, I think the Bucks are winning in 7.
All right, sounds good. So let's go to the last one, which I'm going to get to Chase last because I know he's higher on this team than he actually should be. But Jacob, or actually Matthew, we'll go to you first since you didn't get to go first yet in the East. Knicks Cavaliers tied at 1 apiece. Heading to New York. Who do you have winning the series?
So I think for this one, they're tied 1-1. I think I'm going to have to give this to the Cavaliers because I just think that overall they're a better team. Donovan Mitchell has been great so far. Darius Garland has been great. Jared Allen and Mobley have been okay. And I think just overall, you look at their teams, I think that the Cavaliers have a better starting lineup, way better than the Knicks, and I just think that they're going to be able to outplay them. I could see this game. I could see the series going to 7, but I'm going to have the Cavs in 6.
All right, Jacob, how about you, bud?
Obviously, me being a Cleveland, Detroit sports fan, I gotta go with the Cleveland Cavaliers here. Mainly, the main reason why I feel like the Cleveland Cavaliers lost that first game was because they really didn't give the ball to Darius Garland enough. He had 0 points, 0 field goal attempts in that fourth quarter. If they gave him the ball at least once, I feel like he probably would have converted, and that would have been a huge, let's say, significance in this game. In that game. So I feel like now, after like a 17-point win in Cleveland, I feel like Donovan Mitchell, their entire starting lineup, plus Karis LeVert could also step up for the Cleveland Cavaliers and win them this series. So I have Cavs, I guess I'm going to say in 5, winning on home court.
All right, Chase. I just wanted you to give me a number of how many games you have winning the Cavs winning this series in, because I know you're going to talk about them more later. So just give me a number. How many games in the series are the Cavs winning this series?
I mean, I think this game 2 really showed how much depth they have. So I'm going to go Cavs. I'm actually going to go Cavs at 5. I think they've exploited the Knicks. I think the Knicks got lucky in game 1. I think Cleveland wins the next 3 here.
All right, sounds good. So let's move out west because we're going to get more into y'all's picks of who you think is going to go far, why you're going to think they're going to go far before we get the Chase's interview. So I just want to quickly go out west. I don't think we really need to talk about the Nuggets, Timberwolves. It's already 2-0 Nuggets. They've been pretty good. Give me the number 4 or 5 or maybe more. Just give me the number you think. Jacob, how many games does it take Denver to win the series?
4. It's just, don't overthink it. It's 4. There's no way Denver's going to lose this series.
All right, Matthew.
They're outplaying them in every way. I have this 4.
4. And Chase.
I'm going to go 4 too because I thought if Anthony Edwards had a high-scoring game like he did last game, or yesterday I should say, I thought for sure Minnesota could steal one, but clearly Denver is able to click to the point where if Edwards goes off, they could still win. So I'm going to go Nuggets at 4.
All right, so 4 all the way to the middle. All right, the other 3 series in the West are all interesting. Some because of injuries, most because of injuries, but also because they're a tight series. The Lakers won game 1 when Ja played. I know he played on the front part of the game. And then Ja didn't play in the second game, and they lost. So it's 1-1. Lakers heading back to LA, though. Heisman, what's your pick in this series?
I think I am going to have the Lakers winning this series because Ja went down. He got an injury. It's not looking great for him. And I understand that the Grizzlies have been playing not just in the playoffs, but this year, incredible without Ja Morant. But I think that when they're playing the Lakers in a 7-game series, I think the Lakers are going to get the best of them. And even if LeBron James isn't how he was in 2011, still leads in playoff points, and he's here for the playoffs. So I have the Lakers in 6 or 7.
Okay, Chase, how about you? What do you have in this series?
I'm going to have Lakers in 6 if Ja is out for a few more games because this last win for the Grizzlies last night is pure luck. Xavier Tillman, I'd put a lot of money down. Xavier Tillman's not going to put up 22 points again in this best of 7 series with the Los Angeles Lakers. And that 13 rebounds, I mean, he led the team in scoring. Overall, they were very inefficient. They shot 30% from downtown. And I really feel the Lakers just shot more inefficient, and they were missing wide open shots. And I feel that Memphis got really lucky with this game. Tillman's not going to have 22 anymore, and they really do not have an answer for LeBron James, as Dylan Brooks has allowed LeBron so far to shoot like 63% from the field when he has been the primary defender on him. So I think Grizzlies are talented enough, especially if Ja comes back for a game, to take another one. But without Ja, Lakers in 5. With Ja, Lakers in 6. There's just no way the Grizzlies could do what they did last game, getting that lucky against a team like the Lakers without
Sounds
Ja.
good, Jacob. How about you, bud? Lakers all the way around, or are you picking the Grizzlies?
Xavier Tillman, a Michigan State guy, I wish he could do what he did last night, but it's just not going to happen. I got the Lakers. If Ja's playing, I got him in 7. If he isn't playing, I got him in 6.
All right, let's go right back to you, Jacob, since the next one again tied 1-1. Suns Clippers. It's going to be interesting now that Kawhi's out. We'll see what happens, but Suns Clippers, Jacob, who you got?
Well, if you can't see my jersey, it's Chris Paul jersey for the Suns. Obviously, I'm taking the Suns here. I think the series is going to end in 5, just like I believe somebody in the chat said. Michael Kaysen said Suns in 5. I 100% agree with you. I feel like the Suns, ever since that game 1, they hadn't played with each other in a while. They had they're like the last couple games of the end of the season, they already clinched the 4 seed. They hadn't played with each other for a while. I think now that they're back together, I think Suns are going to win it 5.
All right, Chase, who do you have in this series?
Suns Clippers is a very interesting series with Kawhi Leonard out. And I wrote an article on my website, Chase Sports News, about, and I talked about this on our show, Sports for Kids, how the Suns have a lack of depth. And with Kawhi and Russell Westbrook playing the way that they did in those first 2 games, that's why they were really in it. So, personally, I think if Kawhi's out for game 3, Suns are going to take that. If Kawhi comes back for game 4, even without Paul George, I think the Suns could tie it at 2 apiece. And from that point, I think it's anyone's series. I mean, Russell Westbrook is going to have to continue to play at the same level that he has continued to play at throughout the season. But at the same time, I just think that the Suns are throughout the season, not throughout the season, throughout the postseason so far. I mean, personally, I think the Suns are too talented. I think the Clippers did get a little lucky. I think Kawhi shows up in the playoffs. I think Russell Westbrook has played great, but without Paul George, I think it is really hard to beat the top 4 that Phoenix has. So I'm going Suns in. If Kawhi doesn't come back for game 4, 6. If he does, Suns in 7.
All right, last one. One of the reasons we had the interview, Kings. Oh, wait, I haven't gotten your opinion. Go ahead, Matthew, quickly, bud.
I think that I'm going to have to give this one to the Phoenix Suns in 6, because assuming that Kawhi comes back before the series is over, I think that him with the Clippers is too talented of a team to not win one more game.
All right, guys, understand. I'm sorry. We're running out of time before we get to the interview and the NHL stuff, so we just got to get through this quickly. Last first-round matchup, Kings-Warriors, 2-0 Kings as they head to Oakland. This is why we had the interview with Jason Thompson coming up later. Matthew, right back to you, bud. The Kings going to pull off this upset, or the Warriors back and bouncing back without Draymond in game 3 and from 0-2 hole?
I want the Warriors to win this, and I had them winning this series. And the only reason I want them to win is because I had them winning. But I don't think it's going to happen. Sabonis is averaging 18 and 13. I don't have Fox's numbers with me right now. I know he's been playing incredible. And it's not only Draymond who's out. Also, Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins are both day-to-day. So I am going to give this one to the Kings in 5 or 6.
All right, Jake, hurry up, bud. What you got?
Honestly, Matthew, I feel like you're really a diehard Warriors fan. I have no clue why, but it seems like whenever you're talking about them, you think that they're going to win. But it's not happening this time. De'Aaron Fox is him, and they're going to win in 5.
All right, sounds good. Chase?
Without Draymond, even as good as they are at home, I don't see them taking game 3. I see them taking game 4 and game 5, but I am going to have Kings in 6. I just think the Kings are too talented. Now, if Draymond was healthy, I'd be sitting in this chair and saying that the Golden State Warriors would win this series.
Well, Draymond's healthy. He's just suspended.
No, I mean, not healthy. Excuse me. If he weren't suspended
I understand.
for game 3, I would be sitting here saying the Warriors are going to win the series. But without him, without that defender, the Kings' offense is way too talented. I see them taking game 3, and it's very rare to come back from a 3-0 deficit. I see them making a run, but losing.
All right, cool, awesome. So I know we're in a hurry just because we have an awesome interview that's coming up, and then we have NHL playoff preview after this. But now, for the 3 of you, it is time to pick it. All right, so it's time to pick it. That should not be on the. There we go. That shouldn't have been on there. But time to pick it. Who we got winning the East? Who we got winning the West? Who we got winning the championship? give me some quick brief reasons. Like I said, we got to rush through this, unfortunately, because of the time and how much we packed into this awesome episode that I'm super excited about. I really appreciate everybody watching. Let us know in the comments who y'all think you have winning it all. Let's start with Matthew. What is your matchup in the final? Who do you have winning it all, bud?
So in the final, I have the Suns versus the Celtics. And I do believe that if the Suns play the Nuggets in round 2, I do think that they're going to be able to pull away with that one. And then you have the Celtics, and I think that they have a decently easy path. And I think that 76ers might be a little tough in the second round, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. And then they will be able to beat the Bucks in the conference finals. So I have the Celtics winning the championship. Jason Tatum has been playing great so far. And all things considered, once you think Celtics versus Suns in the playoffs, I think that it's Celtics easily. I don't think that the Suns would do great in that matchup. So I do have the Celtics winning it.
The Celtics, the team without a center, is going to win a championship. Isn't that crazy? It's how that often has to happen.
They do have a center. They have Robert Williams.
He's good. He's good.
Yeah, we'll see how he does against Joel Embiid next round. All right, Jacob Muncie.
Oh, you're going there, Zeke. All right, Jacob.
Jacob Muncie, who do you have in the finals, and who do you have winning, bud?
Well, I basically have the same exact thing as Matthew had between Celtics and Suns. I had Celtics being the Cavs to make it in there, and I believe I had the Suns being the Lakers as a surprise. And I'm gonna go with the opposite pick. We did our Sports for Kids bracket and our own bracket over on Sports for Kids YouTube channel. Check that out after this. But yeah, I had the Suns mainly because that starting lineup is really, really, really good. And I feel like Suns, once they got that chemistry back in game 1 where they absolutely dominated the Clippers in the end there, I feel like they're just going to take all that momentum and beat the Celtics. I'm going to have it be a close series. I'm going to have it end in 7. Suns in 7 against Celtics.
All right, sounds great. Chase, let's talk about your crazy thoughts. Or maybe they've changed and I don't know, but let's talk about your crazy thoughts.
So let me just sit here and say that I think the Cavaliers are going to get out of the East. However, I would not be surprised to see Boston get out of the Eastern Conference because of how well-rounded they are, because of the great team that they have. I really think it's going to be Boston or Cleveland. I see Cleveland getting by New York. I mean, New York got very lucky in that first game, and I think that, Cleveland is now, they found their groove, having a ton of depth, and I think now that they're just going to cruise on and win that series. They play Milwaukee, and I'm not happy for my pick that Milwaukee's depth is playing better than I expected with Chris Middleton hurt and all that, but I don't expect them to continue to play at the same pace and knock down 25 three-pointers like they did last night. And I think Cleveland, they have 2 front-court guys to throw at Giannis. They have 2 backcourt guys that are very good to kind of shake up Drew Holiday a little bit there in the backcourt, because we saw Donovan Mitchell could be the facilitator or Darius Garland could be the facilitator. They have a well-rounded team with depth and defense, have them getting past Milwaukee, and then Boston, I may have them making quick work of Philadelphia, playing them. That will be possibly series of the decade right there. I think that goes 7 in an overtime game in game 7. I think that goes down to the wire. I think Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs get it done. Out in the West, I got the Nuggets taking down the Suns. I don't like the Suns' lack of depth. Denver's got a ton of depth. They got 6 guys averaging double figures, and I think that will give the Suns some trouble. We've seen they struggle with the Clippers. They will have those struggles against Denver, especially with DeAndre Ayton not playing to a high caliber or to a high place so far this postseason. He hasn't been great defensively. That won't work against Jokic. Nuggets move on. Then I have them playing the Los Angeles Lakers in the conference finals, where I think while the Lakers have depth, while they do have a guy like LeBron James, they do not. While Anthony Davis is good, I just think the Nuggets got too much depth. I think the longer the Lakers go in the playoffs, the more injuries are going to bug them, and the more games that Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves aren't going to put up 20 points off the bench. And I think because of that, the Nuggets make the finals. Nuggets play the Cavs in a very interesting series, and I think that it also goes 7, but I got Denver winning it all. I really like to pick teams with depth, good defenses, superstars, and good coaching, and I think both of these teams really have that. They each have I think paths that some may not predict to happen, but I think paths that I think I could see a way. I won't pick a team as good as they are to win if I don't see a way that they'll beat the other team. And I think they match up really well against all their opponents that I do have them facing off against. So Nuggets over Cavs in the NBA Finals. I could easily be wrong. Boston could easily make it. Maybe Phoenix's bench plays better and they make it, but I'm going to go with Nuggets over Cavs here. Sticking with my.
All right, Chase. I hope you're wrong, because if it's Cavs Nuggets, no one is going to care about that finals at all. No one's going to watch it. It's going to.
I will.
It's going to be so boring. Two teams that no one cares about because they don't have anybody who wants to watch play basketball.
I care about the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I know you're a Cleveland fan. What?
Are we not going to talk about the MVP of the NBA? Nikola Jokic?
The MVP of the NBA is not Nikola Jokic. It won't be Nikola Jokic. It's guaranteed not to be Nikola Jokic.
It's Joel Embiid, bro.
Thank you very much. There you go. Right. Joe's the MVP Chase, how much? I will bet you $1,000
I'm not betting money because
right
I say who I think is going to win, not who I think the public is getting or the voters are going to.
Oh, well, that's because you're wrong, and that's okay.
I personally think Nikola Jokic should win the MVP. If you want to learn why about how Embiid and Giannis don't show as much value, please check out chasesportsnews.com. I wrote a whole article.
Chase, were you at that Sixers game that you and Jacob were at and watched how bad Joel
I know Embiid's better than Jokic. Jokic shows more value. The Sixers are 11-5 without Embiid, Zeke. They can win without him. They got James Harden. They got a talented team. The Nuggets are nothing without Nikola Jokic.
I guess that is true. But the most valuable player doesn't always stand for value. Jacob Muncie, I don't know where you went.
It should stand for value because that's what the award says.
I know, but it never has. It's always been the best player, and then until they get tired of getting the best player of the award. But I appreciate all your picks.
It really does. No one knows the criteria anymore.
I know. It's all gone. But either way, great picks. It's going to be an interesting series, playoffs. I hope it's a lot of fun to watch. I hope it's not the final that Chase said, because I don't think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But I think the playoffs leading up to it are going to be fantastic. We'll see what happens in the final. All right. So it is time.
This season has been terrific.
Yes. All right. So bye-bye to Chase. Bye-bye, Matthew. Thank you both so much. We'll see Chase again later in the show with his interview that we'll have at the end of the show with Jason Thompson. An amazing interview we had yesterday. But now it is time to switch sports, and it is time for our second primetime preview. It is time for the primetime preview of the NHL playoffs. And for that, we bring on Alana and William to the show. All right, let's see how it's going with these two. All right, there we go. So bring me to the bottom. There's William, who we all know what team he's rooting for, and Alana, who is rooting for the New York Islanders to move on in their playoff series. I know that, but we'll see if they actually pick their hometown teams or what they decide. Let's go over the first round. Let's just go through some teams, guys. We went on the hardwood. Now we get to go on the ice. Alana, welcome. William, welcome. All right, so let's go over the NHL. Let's talk about who we all think is going to make the the Stanley Cup and stuff. But first, we're going to start on the first round. Let's go over what I thought was an easy. Let's start in the East. Start with Alana, finish with William. Sounds good. I thought it was going to be an easy series, and then all of a sudden, Boston, the greatest team in the history of the NHL, best record ever. There goes my camera. It's messing up there. Best record in history of NHL, most points in history in the NHL. Wins easy 3-1 game one. Alana, what happened in game two? Do you still think the Bruins are going to move forward and take the series, or is the Panthers showing something with their hot goaltender?
Yeah, I think this is still the Bruins series. There was a report that came out right before the series started that the Bruins did have a bit of a stomach bug going around. And I think that definitely hit them hard. They lost some of their top players because of it. And I truly think they'll be able to bounce back in game three. Like we've seen it all season, they faced so much adversity the entire season and truly became the greatest team we have ever seen. Most amount of points ever in the regular season. I just think they're going to go far in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And this bug that's going on in the locker room isn't going to have anything to stop them.
All right, William, so give me your opinion real quick. Do you think the bug that I didn't even know about until Alana informed me is enough to stop them, or are they moving on?
Yeah, I'm with Alana here. I mean, the Bruins lead in every category, and with the depth that the team has, I can't see that bug really having much of an impact. They're, quite frankly, arguably the greatest team of all time, and I think they're going to win the Stanley Cup, to be entirely honest, until proven otherwise. All
right, sounds good. I'm sure we'll get your picks on that later, and I'll have a few questions about the Stanley Cup and what could happen there. let's talk about the other matchup in that division, which Toronto fans weren't happy in the first game, but so far they had a fantastic start to this one. It's currently going 3-1 in the second period of this game 2. A lot of this back and forth series, the Lightning have obviously the experience, but Toronto is obviously been a good team all year with Austin Matthews. Is an experience going to outweigh any – well, Toronto's always been terrible in the playoffs. Any maybe blessings that Toronto gets this year, or is Toronto going to shock some people? Alana.
Yeah, I think that Toronto – it depends truly on Victor Hedman. Victor Hedman is out tonight, and we're already seeing that's having a major impact on what the Maple Leafs team is able to do against the Lightning. I think if they claim it's an undisclosed injury for Victor Hedman. If he's going to be out the rest of the series or even another game or two, I think this could go the Leafs' way. Ilya Samsonov is 1-7 in his career in the playoffs. So a defenseman that big on the Leafs side, helping the Leafs helping the Lightning go against the Leafs when the Leafs don't have a good goaltender in there. You are strong enough to go in and beat that goaltender. You have the playoff experience. You won 2 Stanley Cups, 3 Stanley Cup appearances. Victor Hedman obviously is playing a huge role, and I think this may go Leafs in 7 if Victor Hedman is going to be out.
How do you feel about that, William? Obviously, the first game was not pretty for the Leafs. Right now, they're up 3-1. And so, how are you feeling about the most popular team in Canada that never seems to win a Stanley Cup?
I have a bit of a hot take that people make fun of me a lot for, but I actually think this is the Leafs' year. I mean, if you look at the Lightning, they actually were pretty bad for a playoff team in the regular season. They only had I just realized the Lightning would have been the second wild card in the West because the Seattle Kraken finished with more points than they did. Honestly, the Lightning were great in the past few years, but I really think their window is just starting to close a little bit. And honestly, I think the Leafs, just the difference there is I think over 10 points. It's quite clear that the Leafs are the better team, and I just don't see streaks going on that long. It's bound to end at some point.
Understand. So we'll see. This might be finally where the Lightning fall. So we have someone commented, "Let's go Devils" in the chat. Well, it's perfect timing because that's the next game we're going to get, or the next matchup we're going to get to. Currently 1-0 at the end of the first. The Devils are beating their, really close rivals in the New York Rangers, but the Rangers have the 1-game lead in the series. The Rangers might have more talent, but the Devils were the more consistent team throughout the season, guys. Alana, I'm going to stick with you going first in the East, and then when we get to the West, we'll let William go first. So, Alana, obviously you don't like either one of these teams, and we'll get to why in a second. But which team of your fierce rivals do you see going on to the next round of the playoffs?
This is a really interesting matchup. Both teams have a very up and down years, very streaky years. And they're just two completely different teams. You have a very young Devils team. Even though they traded for Timo Meier at the trade deadline, it's still very young. And not a lot of those guys do have any playoff experience, unlike a Rangers team who traded for Patrick Kane, who has such great presence in the locker room, who can influence their younger guys. The Rangers do have a lot of young talent. But then again, they also have guys like Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad who have the playoff experience from last year to help the Rangers keep going. So because the Devils are so young, even though they won 13 games in a row, and Vitek Vanacek is still on his head all year long for that team, I just think the Rangers and their playoff experience are going to win it.
All right, so we got the Rangers winning from Alana. What do you say, William?
I agree with Alana again here. Honestly, the Rangers to me are just made of stars. It's so insane. It's not even funny. They have Kane, Tarasenko now at the trade deadline on top of Fox and Panarin. And in addition to that, they also have Shesterkin in goal. It's just that I know the Rangers are just really, really good. They were in the Western Conference Eastern. I'm sorry, I'm not on my game today. They were in the Eastern Conference Final last year, and to be entirely honest with you, the Devils don't have the depth to really contend with that. It's just the Rangers are going to throw a bunch of amazing forwards at the Devils. I don't even think this will go to 7 games. I think it's only going to be in 6 that the Rangers win.
All right. So now the most important series for one of our people that unfortunately sees her team down 2-0. But they were both on the road. They were both 1-goal games, one in overtime. Alana, can your Islanders make the comeback over the division-winning Carolina Hurricanes? I mean, they've held them close twice. They get to go home to home ice, get some home cooking for 2 games. What do you think? How are you feeling, Alana, after 2 games?
Not feeling too good. It was 2 really tough games. Islanders have not been able to develop any offense whatsoever. We saw in last night's game, the Carolina Hurricanes had 6 power plays, while the Islanders had 0. And that game-winning goal was it should have been a power play for the Islanders. If you see Matt Martin got a high stick to the face, just right in front of the ref. He was standing right there. No call whatsoever. It's just been really tough for the Islanders. They've had ups and downs all year. They have, I think, one of the best goaltenders in all of hockey with Ilya Sorokin. And even though he's been amazing, there's not much you can do when your team doesn't score. I'm really hoping that when they come home, these are going to be the first playoff games at UBS Arena. Fans are going to be excited. And you can just win 1 game. Get that momentum under your belt. Win a game to then. I think they have to win both. Obviously they have to win both home games to continue, but winning at home not only helps improve the confidence when you go back to Carolina, hopefully if they can continue winning, but it just keeps building the team confidence altogether. And while the Carolina Hurricanes are a great team, we've seen that a lot. I think they're going to win the series. I don't want them to, but I just think the Islanders don't have enough chemistry together to win it.
All right, William, are you going to give Alana hope, or you can make this quick if you think the Carolina Hurricanes are going to win the series quickly?
I mean, honestly, yeah, I got Canes as well. They're without their best player, so I think they could be even better than they already are, and the Hurricanes were not doing so hot going into the playoffs, but to be entirely honest with you, the Islanders barely snuck into the playoffs. They're just not a good team. Like you could have as good a goaltender as you want. If the defense can't back them up, you're not going to win many games in the playoffs.
Understand. That's because you never saw Jean-Sebastien Giguère carry the Mighty Ducks to a Stanley Cup final.
As good as Sorokin is, he's not that.
All right, sounds good. So let's go out west now. Let's talk about some teams that are a little closer to William's heart. We'll go with William first, but we're going to wait to get to that team that he is all excited about up there in Seattle. Let's start with the team that has the most points out west, 111 points on the season. Gets to play Winnipeg Jets. The Golden Knights, even though they're such a recent team, obviously still only at the 4th or 5th year in the league, they have a lot of playoff experience because they've been there almost every year. I think last year they might have made it. I can't remember. But I know the years before that, obviously, they made deep runs. They lost game 1 to the Jets, though. Is Vegas going to be another team that finishes really hot in the regular season, most points in the West, and falls out in the first round? What do you think, William?
No. I mean, Winnipeg also barely snuck into the playoffs, and really, it's a bit of a last dance with their aging core. The Jets do not have what it takes to beat the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights equal them or better on every line, and I just can't see a path to a Jets victory, even with the Game 1 win. I honestly think it was just luck.
All right, Alana, how do you feel about the Vegas all of a sudden most consistent team in maybe the NHL lately, besides Tampa Bay? Vegas, the Golden Knights.
I completely agree that I think they're going to win this series. It's crazy to think that this is Jack Eichel's first ever time in the playoffs. He's been such a consistent force, even when he was with Buffalo, even though they didn't make the playoffs at all. Adding a guy like that to your team just improves everything that Vegas has been building over the past 4 years. They didn't make the playoffs last year, but your first 3 years, you make the playoffs. You make the Stanley Cup final in your first season. They got their captain back in Mark Stone after being out since January with a back injury. I just think overall that core, they've been together. And while I do think Connor Hellebuck is a stronger goaltender because we all know that Vegas has had goaltender issues all year. They traded for Jonathan Quick, but still Logan Thompson got hurt early on. I just think Vegas knows what to do in the playoffs, and I just don't think Winnipeg has enough talent to be able to beat them.
All right, William. So now you guys have agreed all across the board so far. I want to see a series y'all don't agree on. I think I might know one, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, we're going to talk about the biggest star. Well, I don't know about the biggest star, but he's definitely the best player in all of hockey. And his name's David. And he has another really great player on his team, Leon Draisaitl. But that has not meant any sort of playoff success for the Edmonton Oilers since he's been there. They're at 1-1 right now with LA after losing game 1, but they came back strong in game 2. William, is this the year that they kind of at least win a series and have a chance at a deep run?
Kings in 7.
Kings in 7. Oh, wow. For hockey's sake, I want Edmonton to win. Give me a quick,
No, I do not want Edmonton to win. I hate Edmonton. Look,
why? They've never been good. I don't understand why you hate them.
One of the closest matchups in the tournament. The Kings were super underrated, comparable in record to the Rangers, and even beating out the Lightning. They have elite defense and some serious stars of their own that not enough people are talking about. Everything about them is underrated, and their depth and better defense over Edmonton makes me think that they're going to make it. Really, the Oilers are just a few stars, a goalie, and not enough else.
I hope you're wrong for hockey's sake, because they need stars to make the sport grow. And unless you have the best player in the league go farther and get into Stanley Cup, it's not going to happen. Because Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin are getting old, so you need someone else to step up. Alana, how do you feel about the series?
I disagree. I definitely think it's going to be the Oilers. The Oilers remind me of the Angels. You have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, best players in baseball. They can't make the playoffs. The Oilers make the playoffs, but they can't get far in it. With a star like Connor McDavid, you have Leon Draisaitl on that team. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I think, is also very underrated. We don't talk about him enough. They added Zach Hyman, and they have Evander Kane, who didn't miss a lot of time with that very serious injury early on. The only question I do have about Edmonton is their goaltending. Stuart Skinner definitely is not a top goaltender in the league. And even if you do have those great players behind you, goaltending makes or breaks what you have in a lineup. So I think we know the Kings can play well. They've shown us all this season. But I just think Los Angeles Kings are pretty old. You have Kopitar as, I guess, your top guy right there. I just think the Oilers, they need to win. They need to win a series. They need to keep going. Like you said before, it's going to be great for hockey if they win. It's just fun. It makes hockey so much fun for fans to watch.
I agree with you, Alana. I'm not sure they'll win the series because they've had failures in the past in the playoffs. LA, as William said, is a very good hockey team. But for the good of hockey, the best player needs to get far in the playoffs. That's why Sidney Crosby was such a polarizing figure, and people watched the NHL Stanley Cup Finals because Sidney Crosby was there. Alexander Ovechkin got there. People watched it. They need Connor McDavid to do the same. So we'll see what happens. All right. Now, a state that's starved for a championship in hockey because they love hockey so much. The state of hockey in Minnesota and the Wild had a great game 1. Not so much in game 2. But they did steal a game on the road in Dallas against the Stars. William, how are you feeling about the two teams between Dallas and the Wild heading into the rest of the series?
Stop underrating the Wild. You guys are just people in general. The hockey world do not talk about the Minnesota Wild enough. I mean, they have stars. You look at, of course, Marc-Andre Fleury is pretty old, but you also look at Kirill Kaprizov. I mean, they have stars, and then they have tons of depth on top of that to get it done. And although they aren't the best offensive team, I think that defense is really going to prove a major roadblock against the Dallas Stars. And if you look at the Stars in the regular season, they actually didn't perform too well against good teams. Most of their wins came against worse ones. So I think they're not actually as good as their regular season might show.
Understand. I mean, you're talking about the Wild maybe not having that great of an offense. They have the lowest goals scored of any team in the Western Conference. They're in the playoffs. So that offense is going to have to score some more goals to win some games. We'll see if they can do that. I would love that because Minnesota deserves a winner because they love hockey. Alana, do you have Minnesota moving on as well?
I don't know. And like you make great points, and I agree the Minnesota Wild do have a great young core, but we tend to see the Wild crumble under pressure. We saw coming out of the All-Star break, they had one of the toughest schedules in all hockey, and they really struggled during that. I really like what the Stars have been able to build. You have Jason Robertson, who I think is going to be one of the next top stars we're going to see in the game. The loss of Joe Pavelski after that scary hit in their last game is definitely going to be huge. But you still have Jamie Benn, who knows what he's doing in the playoffs. They made the Stanley Cup final a couple years back. And like you said, the Wild can't score. And like against a team and Jake Ottinger, I loved watching when the Islanders played Dallas because it was such a great goalie matchup. You had Elias Regan, you had Jake Ottinger, both going at it. I think the game went to a shootout, final score being like 2-1, very low scoring game. And with the Minnesota Wild already struggling to score, Jake Ottinger is just going to make that more difficult. And I think the Stars are going to win this one.
All right. So we finally got some disagreement. I think we're going to get some disagreement here as well. All right. Some people said the way the Avalanche played in the Stanley Cup last year might have looked like maybe the best team to ever play hockey. They were so smooth. They skated so fast. Everything they did looked perfect in every way. William, I'm not going to talk to you first because I already know your thoughts on this. Alana, are you going to break William's heart like he did with you with the Islanders and say they don't stand a chance against maybe the best team in hockey, but they kind of got off to a slow start? Or are you going to give William some hope? And Seattle, who is a scrappy team, has played pretty well, had a pretty solid first season or second season in the NHL after last season not doing so well. How do you feel, Lana?
The Seattle Kraken made major improvements. They had the best improvement out of any team after an expansion, which is just incredible. It really is amazing what they were able to do. But I just don't think they're going to win this series. The Colorado Avalanche have such a great team. You have Cale Makar, who although has been hurt the last couple weeks, he's back. You have Nathan McKinnon. They're missing their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, which is a huge loss, which may give the Kraken a little bit of wiggle room to try and win the series. But I just think the Avalanche know what it takes. They won the Stanley Cup last year. So I think the Avalanche are going to win this one in 5 over the Kraken.
5? That's crazy, considering the Kraken split game 1, which I'm surprised William was. I know William messaged me right about how excited he was about game 1. Game 2 tomorrow, or game 2 later today. I know William's staying up for it. Well, he doesn't have to stay up for it because he lives on the West Coast.
Nope.
But
6:30 p.m.
William, I know you're excited about this. I know your pick. Tell me why.
All right. Look, you guys are underrating the Kraken way too much. Depth is one of the most important things a team can have in the playoffs, and the Seattle Kraken have it in spades. Listen, the Kraken, I think, are second or third in the league for different 10-goal scorers. And in addition to that, while Grubauer might not be the best, Georgiev is looking pretty shaky at the moment, and it's a little more even. Also, he's got a grudge against the Avalanche for not protecting him during the expansion draft. And people are sleeping on the Kraken players. To be entirely honest, their top line is actually has more goals for per time played together than the Avalanche top line does. And you guys are going to start hearing the name Jared McCann a lot more in the coming years. That guy is a stud, and not enough people are talking about him. Quietest 40-goal season I have ever seen. In addition, Vince Dunn is amazing. As I said in my hot take, I think he was 6th in Norris power rankings as well. He is an amazing two-way defensive player, and people don't talk about him either. The thing is, the Avalanche have a few pretty good players and a solid supporting cast, but it's not as good as Seattle's, and that's why I see them stealing this one in 7.
All right. I don't think we're underrating Seattle. I think we're just understanding how good Colorado was last year.
And there are a few Kraken haven't beat on 4 and 3 and 4.
I understand, but they were the best team in hockey last year by a long shot. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. I'm not saying it can't happen, especially with the injuries that Colorado has going on right now, but it's possible. But it is time. I know this is a quicker process than we normally do, but just how we had to do this episode. But it is time for y'all to pick it. Who's winning the Stanley Cup? I don't know why the second part of that got cut off, but I want to know who's winning each conference, who's winning the cup, Give me a brief reason why. We have about 8 minutes left before I know William has to run, and we have our interview coming up with Chase and Jason. William, I know your pick, so that's why I'm going to you first. I don't know Alana's pick, so I'm more intrigued by that. So I want to hear her pick. William, who do you have winning each conference? Who do you have raising the cup at the end of this playoff season?
All right, so if you ask me, it's going to be Wild Knights in the Western Conference Final and Bruins Rangers in the Eastern Conference Final. I have Minnesota winning in 6 and Boston winning in 5. And it's going to be Boston that ends up winning the Stanley Cup in 6 games. And honestly, Minnesota, they've got the depth to do it. I mean, I'm a depth guy. I say that if you have depth in the playoffs, you're going to do pretty good. And I know people keep underrating the Wild. You need to stop. Look at that defense. It's a brick wall. I mean, I don't care how many stars you have. They're not getting through that kind of depth. And I mean, even like their third and fourth lines, they're not really that far. They're not really that far apart from a lot of the other a lot of the other Western teams. But unfortunately, while we're talking about brick walls, Boston's definitely won. No one will ever get past them. Boston beats Minnesota at everything. No one has better depth than Boston does. And in addition to that, they've got the stars to do it. They've got the goalie to do it, the offense, the defense. Boston's the best at everything, and no one's beating them. They're winning the cup pretty handily.
All right, Alon, before I get to you, because now that I realize his pick, I think I might have the same pick from you because, well, it's Boston. Boston's just so good for this year. So if you're not picking them, it's a surprise. But real quick, I just want to ask Alana, I watched a lot of season previews before the season started to see if the Flyers had any chance to make it the playoffs, which obviously they were terrible and didn't. But a lot of people are kind of rating the Boston Bruins mid-pack heading into the season. What do you think changed that brought them from maybe a wild card team, and if they have a down year out of the playoffs, to the greatest season in the history of the NHL?
You know, not a lot of the team changed going into this year. You know, not a lot of moves were made. You got the same core with Pastrnak and McAvoy and Bergeron. You still have all of them there. I just think when you can keep developing that same chemistry with minimal changes to your lineup, you really get to build a unique experience within your own team. It's like a family in there, I feel like. And, you know, we see so many moves in sports, all sports, where new guys are coming in, guys are leaving to go somewhere else. We really saw Boston stay the same. And I think because of that, they're able to use that chemistry they have together as a team to not worry about who they're going against. Like, all right, maybe we're taking on a Tampa Bay Lightning who's been so dominant over the past years. All right, we believe in ourselves and we can continue to go and win those games. Obviously, you've seen Omar has been absolutely incredible. Even Swayman, when he's had to come in as well. Having a tandem like that at goalie, really, I feel like goalies, I've said it a lot, I think, on this broadcast, but goalies really can make or break what you're going to do in the playoffs and regular season as well. And having a strong tandem like that really has blew the roof off at TD Garden.
Yeah. William, real quick, I'll let you touch on this, and then I want to get Alana's picks, and we'll head to the interview. William, why do you think Boston way outperformed anybody's expectations? They were not thinking they're going to win the division. Not only did they win the division, they had the greatest season in history.
I mean, I'd rather talk about another team exceeding expectations, but as far as Boston goes, honestly, with their goaltending tandem, as Alana said, like, Jeremy Swayman would be starting on half of these playoff teams. The tandem is that good. And honestly, people are saying that Ullmark shouldn't win the Vezina because he like was carried by the Boston defense. No, Ullmark did that himself. The Boston defense is just good on top of that. That's why they're so dominant. And then, honestly, part of that was luck and just some last gasp improvements from their offense and defense. But I'm going to be entirely honest. I think that kind of like the 2021 San Francisco Giants, this just kind of happened. It wasn't really due to any one factor, but it just occurred.
Gotcha. All right. Awesome. I mean, the Boston just knows how to produce goalies. First, it was Tim Thomas. Then it was Tuukka, and now it's the two they have going on in Boston. It's unbelievable. They just continue to do it. Alana, give me your picks. East, West. Who's raising the cup? If it's not Boston, I'll be surprised. But who you got?
All right, I have Boston in this one, but the West team may be a bit of a surprise to some people. I have the Dallas Stars in this one. You know, I was talking about it before. I really, really like what Jason Robertson is doing, and he's really been able to grow with the veterans on that team who have playoff experience to teach him what he can do. Seriously, one of the most dominant rookie performances we've seen. And then again, like I said, Jake Ottinger is one of my favorite goaltenders this year. And if it wasn't for Omar's such dominance in Boston, I think he's probably going to be third on the Vezina list this year, honestly, especially if he does make it to the Stanley Cup final. And the Stars, you know, like I said, they've been in the Stanley Cup. Joe Pavelski's a huge loss, but if they can just make it far enough to get him back into that lineup after hopefully he's able to before the end of the season, they really are going to be able to just keep on going. I have them beating the Wild, and then I have them beating the Avalanche. So if you can beat a team like the Avalanche, you have all the confidence in the world going to play Boston. But, you know, I think they're just too good. I think I got Boston in 6 in this one.
All right. So everybody pay attention to that Dallas-Minnesota series, because apparently whoever's winning that is getting to lose to the Boston Bruins in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yay!
Thank you so much. I hope it's true, because honestly, I would feel really bad if Boston didn't. I hate Boston sports. I'm a Philadelphia fan. Everybody knows that. But
I love
have
Boston.
that great of a regular. You have that great. That's because you don't live close enough to it to understand how miserable it is to be near them, right, Lana?
Yeah.
But if you have that great of a regular season, you really deserve to win a championship. If you don't, Seattle fans especially should know this with what happened with the Mariners before you were born, William. But still, we're around when you were born. So hopefully Boston does pull it off, for the fact that if you do that great a history, you deserve it. So thank you both for all the great opinions, William and Alana. Boston versus either whoever wins the Dallas or Minnesota series. Sounds great to me. I really appreciate your expertise, and we'll talk to you all soon. All right. So they both had great opinions about the NHL. Fantastic. Now we're getting to the point. I was excited to talk sports today, but I think we're really excited for this part because this is our biggest guest so far, right, Chase?
I'm sorry, what'd you say you were cutting out there?
This is our biggest guest so far that we've had for an interview, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, I think second maybe behind me on this podcast.
Oh Lord have mercy, definitely not. But that is what it is. As we can tell, Chase has an ego and he talks too much. This is the things that we know, and he's also a little crazy about his sports picks. But is what it is. We still love him, and we love how dedicated he is to his craft. All right, Chase. So would you like to introduce our interview today?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how long it was, but I had a great talk yesterday with Jason Thompson. He was very generous with his time, the way that he was able to break down this King squad, different things in his career, what it was like to get drafted, load management. He touched on a lot of different things. And he's currently an assistant coach for Riders. So, you know, a guy that played there, won MAC Player of the Year, and then now is coaching them in the same conference as my Fairfield Stags for Fairfield University. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was very interesting. I hope you guys do enjoy it. Again, Jason was really nice with his time. And, yeah, it's really interesting to hear some of his thoughts to different questions and the cool story about kind of how he got drafted.
Fantastic. So we'll have the interview and then the episode will end. We really hope you enjoy the interview and appreciate it. And Chase, let's introduce our interview.
Thank you guys so much. I'm Chase Coburn. Today I am joined by a very special guest, a longtime NBA center and power forward in the NBA and current assistant coach at Rider University, Jason Thompson. Jason, thank you so much for joining and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Chase. I'm excited for all the questions you're about to ask me.
Of course, I'm excited that you're here to answer them. So you said you wanted to get into questions, so let's get into it right now. So a big reason why we're having you on today is because the Sacramento Kings, who are making the postseason for the first time since you were playing at Rider in 2006, and, you know, they're up 2-0. You were at both games, of course, going against the Golden State Warriors. And, in fact, you've actually played – there's been more guys that have played with the Royals, but you've actually played the most games ever as a Sacramento King. So there's no better person to talk to about them than, of course, you. So, you know, kind of break down what makes, what really about this team, makes them so special. What's the most intriguing part about this Sacramento squad?
I think it's just how Mike Brown has just changed the culture. He's obviously seen success. He has a lot of success with the Cleveland Cavaliers when he was coaching LeBron, a young LeBron. And then he was with the Warriors. So he kind of was around that culture as well. I think he's with the Nigerian Olympic basketball team as well, if I'm not mistaken, and changed that team around too. So, everywhere he's gone, he has changed the culture, and then you have a legit superstar in De'Aaron Fox, that's a point guard and is leading the way. Everyone was, wondering about the trade with Sabonis, but, a guy that was an all-star with the Pacers, and then you have that type of system. He's the pass-first big that can get you a double-double and even triple-double every night. And he does stuff on both ends of the floor. Then you got Malik Monk, who's a guy that, is De'Aaron's right-hand man, when it comes to Kentucky. So you have a core. You got Harrison Barnes, who is a great glue guy. He knows the championship formula because he played for the Warriors. And, like I said, they have a great, solid bench. Guys know their roles. They play fast-paced. They look like they're having a great time out there. They were number one in offense. And then everyone was speculating how their defense was going to be. But, everything kind of just tightens up in the playoffs. So, like I said, I may be surprised if they're seeding and how well of the year they were going to have. But, on paper and that culture, man, you just knew that they were destined for success.
So a player you just touched on briefly was Domantas Sabonis. And, he is just an incredible big, as you just mentioned. And in fact, funny enough, you guys are almost like the exact same person. He's 6'11", 240. You're 6'11", 250. Break down a little bit more about Sabonis and some other bigs that you like in the NBA currently.
Yeah, I mean, just how the game has changed. I think that he can shoot outside more, but, he knows his game, and he's a pass-first big. He can score, but he'd rather have, it seems like he'd rather have 12 assists than, 20 points. But, he brings that toughness as well. Most guys, I think, back in the day that used to put up big numbers weren't that tough. And, he brings that toughness, obviously, with, the situation he had with Draymond. But like I said, that's just playoff basketball. Then, like you said, you got Trey Lyles that comes in and can spread the floor. He has a certain type of toughness as well. He got into, I think, a fight with Brook Lopez with the Bucks and stuff like that too. So like you said, man, you need those type of guys that are going to die for loose balls and do the little things to get the wins. So they did what they're supposed to do, get those 2 wins in Sacramento. It was lively, man. It was a crazy atmosphere. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to do in San Francisco.
It will, because the Warriors are one of the top 3 home teams in the NBA. That will be interesting. However, as you just have mentioned throughout these past few minutes, they really are a terrific team. I kind of want to break down your career as well. You spent the majority of your career in Sacramento. For most of your time you were with the organization, you played with DeMarcus Cousins, who, like yourself, was a center who was a first-round pick. However, you still were able to start because of your versatility on the floor, being able to play power forward. What was it like to play with a guy like DeMarcus Cousins, and what was the transition like going from center to power forward?
Yeah, I just think that when I got drafted, I just, was drafted as a power forward. And then, with my versatility, I was able to still be a center. Even sometimes in my rookie year, I played the small forward as well. It's just different times when my most, stats. And then when Cuz came in, obviously with his talent, he got the ball a little bit more. At times, it was different, playing with him. Like, I was having, good high scoring games than he would. And then just the balance of that. And, when I came into the league, I was able to shoot threes and stuff. But, that at the time I was doing more post-ups and mid-range. And that's what we both were doing. And then eventually at times we would, change it up. So, obviously his game, changed. I just think at times it was tough because sometimes we were just running into each other in the same, positions and spots. But, time heals all wounds of that. And, in my tenure, man, it was just crazy having 7 coaches in 7 years.
Yeah, that is crazy to be able to have that much, system changes and all that. That must have been hard to adjust to. I'll kind of follow you up on that. I mean, what was that like? I mean, 7 different coaches, that's 7 brand new systems and cultures that you have to relate to. Kind of dig deeper into that thought, kind of how you had to play with so many different systems and cultures throughout your career.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough to say the least. You're coming in there as a young rookie, and I had Reggie Theus to start, and then eventually I had, then he got fired, mid season, and later on I had new trades, and then we went younger, and like I said, every season. After the season, I was going to the fans and saying that I had to, I wasn't sure if the team was going to stay in Sacramento. So, after that, I was saying hello to the fans. And then, next training camp, I have a new coach and new system and new teammates. And then it just, like I said, just kept happening each and every year. And, the times, like I use the example all the time with like how the Sixers were with the trust the process. Brent Brown was there a significant amount of times, and losing seasons before, they started getting to the playoffs and stuff like that too. But at least even if they had the same system, the same coach and most of the same coaching staff. So that's a little bit of an easier of a cushion to play with that, regardless of their non-success early on.
Right. And, I also do want to continue to touch on your career because that is very interesting. But not only have you got to be with a lot of interesting coaches, you've got to play with, let's call them interesting players because, at the end of your career in 2016, you played 28 games for the Warriors during their 73-9 campaign, going 24-4 before being signed by Toronto and then came off the bench in the franchise's first ever conference finals appearance. So break down what it was like to play with so far the only unanimous MVP in NBA history and Steph Curry, one of the greatest teams ever, and then continuing to play winning basketball in Toronto throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most humblest, superstars. That's what even made going to the Kings Warriors playoff series a little bit, weird just because, you have blood, sweat, and tears for an organization for so long. But then, I was in most of the team of the Kings, nobody was there when I was there. But at least with the Warriors, the whole core is still there and staff and stuff like that too. So it was a little bit, weird when it came to that. But like I said, it just from that year changing and getting traded to them, man, you see how the culture was just different. They had came off winning their first championship. So they already had the blueprint, and part of it was how cool and collective that we were in practice. And like you said, they just translated to the game. So having the best start in NBA history was kind of just crazy, especially there was no championship hangover. You got right back to it. And then, like I said, eventually I ended up going to the Raptors and being around that culture as well in Canada, and had Kyle and DeMar and all them leading the way, and playing with those guys was great as well too. Kyle being from the same area I'm from as well in Philadelphia. So like I said, man, it was just a blessing, and I was just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, you were mentioning now, of course, you're a longtime King. You also played with that whole coaching staff and that whole core. So I could probably tell how hard that is to have to cheer against that team that you're very familiar with as well. But I want to ask you, the Kings right now, again, they're up 2-0 against the Warriors, but do you think they'll be able to get past the series with the Warriors going home, and how far do you expect Sacramento to go?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with Draymond not playing in Game 3, it's going to be really interesting with the series. As much as I have love and respect for the Warriors, but throughout the season and the regular season, they weren't good road teams. So I don't think too many people are surprised. I know they said I think Steph never was down 0-2 in any series or first round series, but for some odd reason they just weren't good on the road. So, when they get to Chase Center, man, it's going to be a different type of atmosphere. But that's still a tough Kings team that has played well on the road as well. You're the champs until you're not anymore. So, they have a lot, going with this because I'm sure, I don't know the percentages, but if you're down 3-0, I'm not sure it's a very high percentage of guys coming back in that series. So, it's gonna be rocking, and it's gonna be really interesting to see.
So you are currently an assistant coach at Rider University, and you guys did some great things in your first year there last year, finishing second in the MAC, which included an 8-game winning streak throughout the middle of the season. What do you think is so special about this team? And then, kind of on the flip side, we've seen in the past few tournaments that all the teams that have made Cinderella runs have been teams in New Jersey: St. Peter's, Princeton, Fairleigh Dickinson. So what kind of makes you think the Rider could possibly be the next New Jersey Cinderella?
Yeah, I mean, we had those high hopes, this year. We had some guys come back, had some good guys from the portal come onto the team. We started off the season kind of tough with just our out-of-conference schedule, played out in Ireland for a tournament, and then came right back and had to play like Rutgers at Rutgers. But like you said, when we got into the conference, we beat Iona down like 20-something and won at the buzzer, and then had a game, like you said, winning streak right after that. So, it's tough when it comes to mid-major because regardless of your record, you're not, you have to win the conference championship to get into the tournament. 9 times out of 10 guys aren't getting the at-large bids. So it kind of puts, a little bit of pressure which tells you that, like I said, it's an open type of format, but even look at the NCAA tournament with the upsets, like, it's one and done. There is no series. So there were a lot of upsets with the 1 seeds. And I think it's the first time in a while where no 1 seeds made it to the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken. But like I said, that just makes that's what makes the NCAA tournament so special, of just the upsets, and you never know what is going to happen because it's one game. If you have one bad game, then your season is done.
Something that I find very interesting about your career is that you played the full 82-game season 3 times. You played 81 games in 2015, and as I mentioned earlier in the show, you played the most games ever as a Sacramento King. So you were a very durable player, always able to be out on the floor. Now we're in an NBA where players will sit out due to slight injuries, but the NBA luckily has made a rule coming up that a player will have to play at least 65 games to qualify for any statistic or any award or anything like that. So what are your thoughts on load management and how the NBA handled the problem with the new rules?
Yeah, man. I mean, they had gave me the nickname Iron Man in Sacramento. That's all I knew. I mean, I was obviously blessed to be able to make it to the NBA, but I always tell kids nowadays the goal is not to make it, is to be able to, have a long career and maintain, your career. So with that being said, I just wanted to just make sure I took care of my body, was working on my game. Obviously, it's unfortunate that I wasn't able to stay in the same system with the same coach for a significant amount of time, especially when you're with the same franchise. But, for me, I just feel like I survived through the storm. And, when I came back to the games, all the fans and diehard Kings fans, respected that, from me, regardless of all the ups and downs we had to go through the organization. And that meant a lot. So for, it's tough to say because I don't try to judge guys now, but I think that it's becoming more of a players league, which makes me think that, hey, I wish I was born a little bit later. But like I said, man, it's still fun to watch. It's high scoring, way more 3-pointers shot and made nowadays. You guys got people breaking records with LeBron and his longevity of how he's been playing. Who knows if anyone's ever going to pass him, on being the all-time leading scorer. So,
right.
The game is going in the right direction. And, a lot of guys even older than me may not like how it's going, but, they're still going to watch, and so are millions and millions of fans.
Right, and you actually just touched on briefly about how the goal is not to make it to the NBA, it's to have a sustained career in the NBA, and that is literally kind of an introduction, or that was kind of foreshadowing to my question here coming up before we do wrap up the show. I mean, yes, you do have to have a sustained career, but with the NBA draft coming up, I want to know from you, what is it like to stand on that podium and be picked, especially in the first round? What is that feeling of getting all that pressure off your shoulders, or at least a little bit of it, and getting drafted into the big boys league?
Well, my situation is a little bit different than the average. Making a long story short, but you can check it out on YouTube. But me being from a back in the day where they'd already letting maybe a couple minutes before on Twitter and stuff. Twitter actually came out when I was a rookie, like right after the draft, which is crazy to say. So then now I go outside, I'm hugging my, and then the whole neighborhood just comes out and just starts doing stuff, man. So it's crazy. Even before the draft, I'm outside pacing, trying to get some fresh air. I think everybody's like looking in the blinds to see like, oh, that's him. Let's see how, you know what I mean? And then I go outside and everyone just starts storming me. And it was crazy. Then we ended up going like 15 minutes away to a draft party, and all people from my neighborhood, friends, family, high school, college, all came. And I couldn't even get in. It took me like an hour and a half to get inside just because of all the media and stuff that was there. So it was a blessing, man. It's really something I can't explain. But it was, like I said, it's something that you dream up as a kid, and it's like dreams do come true.
They really do. What an interesting story, and what a great interview, to say the least. Guys, this was Jason Thompson. Jason, thank you so much for coming on and, coming on the show with us, giving us a great time, giving the viewers some enjoyment. And some of your answers are really interesting. I really, liked hearing your perspective as an NBA player and all that, as someone that was durable, as you said, getting into the NBA and all that stuff. So, Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, no problem, man. One thing I want to say for you, man, is one thing that got me intrigued is because when I was your age, I wanted to be an analyst.
Really?
So, and then in college, I went for communications, TV, radio. So I was doing a lot of things, even when I was with the Kings and the Warriors. I did stuff in studio and stuff like that. So,
Really cool.
So when you reached out to me talking about broadcasting, man, really, excited for you. So, one thing I could manage is, on this type of podium, sometimes, but let someone tell you can't do anything in life.
Yes, Jason, thank you so much. And good luck this season with Ryder. I'd say go Bronx, but I'm a Fairfield U fan, so I can't really say that.
It's all right. You can root for us until we play the Stags.
Yeah, exactly. So again, thank you so much for joining. Good luck next season, and go Kings.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The Play-by-Play Student Sports Network. The best students of sports.